Hello and welcome to my journal. I'm Stephanie Rivers. A wise man once said the biggest mistake he ever made was misunderstanding the relationship between love and money. It wasn't until his wife left him and took everything, including his dreams, that he learned this valuable lesson. If there are two things that most people wish they could do over, it probably has to be how they've handled past relationships and how they handle their finances. Although rational people enter relationships with the best of intentions, the divorce rate in the United States indicates that good intentions don't guarantee a happy ending. So as with anything in life, it's better to expect the best but be prepared for the worst. Although my fiance and I completed premarital counseling, the subject of money rarely ever was discussed until after we said I do, and those discussions became more confrontational over time. It wasn't until after the nuptials that my then husband told me that he didn't approve of my credit score and that he didn't want to commingle our funds, which was his choice. I just wish he would have told me that before we spent money on a wedding or divorce and all the money that was spent in between, including the emotions. I didn't know it at the time, but he did me a favor. Now I'm going to do you a favor and share some of my lessons learned about love and money. Consider it my Valentine Day gift to you. Long courtships are best. Date someone at least 2 years before you decide to get engaged. This will help you to avoid getting caught up in the fantasy of a love at first sight fairy tale wedding. Drug addicts, the mentally disturbed, and people with other major character flaws, they can fake it for 6 months. But after that, it's pretty hard to be themselves. It's pretty hard not to be themselves. And although it's your choice to date somebody who might not have a job or a car, but not both, you don't want to make long-term decisions about someone unless they're a whole person. Wait until after they get a job and they own their own vehicle and they can financially support themselves before you make those kinds of decisions. People change when they get money and they get their own wheels. When you marry, wait at least 2 years to have children. Only time will tell if you're not right for each other. So sadly, some people have children right away and they've never known their spouse's habits, their values, or their character. And if you don't agree on those core principles, you shouldn't have children together, regardless of how cute the babies might be. Bad habits are hard to break. So if you're seriously considering marriage, take note of each other's spending habits during the dating stage of the relationship. Although it's important to know how much your significant other earns on a job, it doesn't matter how much you earn if you spend all of your leftover money on clothes, shoes, and dining out, and on electronic gadgets. You have to have the latest thing coming out. It's going to drain your account. Impulsive buying habits are what keep most Americans in debt. While we're on the subject of habits, it really is important, and I know you've heard this already, it really is important to note how a man treats his mother, his sisters, and other women in his life. Does he speak of them well? Does he act gentlemanly even with women who are strangers that he might happen to meet in a store or passing through the door? Does he hold the door open for them? Does he have total regard for all of those people? And if he has children, does he support them emotionally and financially? Does he treat his ex-spouse or his baby's mother with respect or disdain? That's very important to know. Pre-existing expenses can kill your family budget. So even though it's romantic to assume that your spouse wants to take on you and all of your pre-existing debt with open arms, credit card bills, student loans, and child support payments can become an overwhelming burden. If you didn't create the bills or the babies, you shouldn't have to pay for them, regardless of how much you love somebody. Former spouses and baby mamas have a habit of petitioning the court for higher child support payments just after their ex decides to remarry. You should wait before you commingle funds for that very reason. Even if there are little to no pre-existing woes, money woes, it's best to wait a few years on opening joint bank accounts, credit cards, or co-signing on property that people can easily leave with, such as cars. That includes filing joint tax returns. Don't do it. Filing jointly might put you in a higher tax bracket, and most people don't even think of that. It also might get you a few $100s back in a tax refund, but nothing screams ball and chain around your ankle more than an ex-spouse to whom you are forever linked in the eyes of the IRS because you filed a joint tax return just to get a few $100s back. If you decide to open joint bank accounts, wait after that waiting period, then I suggest that you keep up with the withdrawals and the balance and where the money is going. It's not fair for one spouse to take on all of the financial burden of the whole household. It should be a shared responsibility. If something should happen to your spouse and that they can no longer handle the finances, then you're going to need to step in and handle those money matters. And there have been too many instances where one spouse didn't pay close enough attention to the finances to their detriment. So if your spouse is in a hurry to join financial forces, maybe you need to consider a prenuptial agreement. That might be your best defense against financial ruin. Some people say prenups are an indication that at least one of you is not fully committed in the relationship. But if both of you are not willing to sign a prenuptial agreement, then I would think I would have other thoughts about joining my money with somebody who didn't want to agree ahead of time on how that money would be split in case we broke up, especially in states such as Texas and California where a couple's assets are split 50-50. When you marry, you're marrying into a family, not just that individual person. So marrying someone without meeting his or her parents or the people who nurtured them is like accepting a job offer and not being introduced to any of your coworkers. You can still do the job, but you might want to make sure you like your coworkers or your family, his family members, just so the atmosphere is better. At least you know what you're walking into. It's important to know what kind of energy this person is bringing to the relationship as well. What kind of spirituality do they bring? And of course, how they feel about money. In other words, are you evenly yoked with this person in all areas of your life? You learn these answers by talking and by observing each other's habits over time. Although everybody wants to feel loved, instead of toiling over the latest and the greatest Valentine's Day gift, your time might be best spent searching for someone who understands the value of having a committed life partner. Then every day feels like Valentine's Day. To find out more about the things that I care about, go to the written version of my journal. It's at eurweb.com. Thanks, and have a super day.